Welcome to the Do More podcast, where we share strategies and tips for improving your life in every aspect. Here's your host, John Farling.
All right, welcome back. Today I've got a good friend of mine, Dan Smith, out of Tennessee, and I know a little bit about his story. Probably more about his basketball story a little bit. But we're gonna dive into his story. He's in self-storage. He's in single-family rentals, I believe, multifamily. But why don't we have him introduce himself? Dan, welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming on.
John, thanks for having me, man. It's always fun hanging out, getting to talk real estate.
Yeah, man. So give us your 2-minute spiel. Who are you? What are you doing?
Well, I'm a retired firefighter. I did that for 13 years. Been doing real estate for about 25, and kind of started single family, flipping, kind of scaled a little bit and got into some multifamily, and then kind of stumbled across storage, bought quite a few storage, and then ended up selling out to my partner. And then actually bought another storage facility just individually, and bought a couple more apartment buildings. So just a little bit of everything. I do a little bit of private lending. So just kind of a little bit of everything. I'm not very specific, just kind of more opportunistic.
I was just going to say opportunistic. So let's unwrap all that. So after high school, obviously you became a firefighter. Is that right out of high school?
No. I went and got my bachelor's and my master's. I worked for a while. I was a teacher for 6 years. And then I actually started school to be a chiropractor and realized that I was going to spend a lot of money and I was going to be cracking backs the rest of my life. And that's not what I wanted. So I felt like I could just go back into real estate and be about $1 million ahead of myself where I would have been the day I graduated college. And actually, my wife's cousin started the same day I did. And I was 1-2 million ahead of him by the time he actually started practicing. So it was a good decision. And then I was a teacher for 6 years, left that, became a police officer for about 2 to 3 weeks. I was like, heck no, I don't want this. So then I became a firefighter and was a firefighter for like 13 years and herniated a couple discs in my back, flipping a drug overdose. And when I went back to work, I had a couple apartment buildings I could sell. So I sold those. And that was kind of the time that I was transitioning into storage facilities and bought a bunch of storage facilities. And then almost 2 years ago now, sold out of that to my partner that he still runs the portfolio. And then I've just kind of, as you know, especially the last year, really been just focusing on reorganizing, kind of getting some structure, truly being able to figure out who I am, because for so long we just sit here and we just grind and grind and grind and grind. And, we have these goals of, oh man, I want to be a millionaire. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then when you get there, you're like, okay, I'm there. So you move that goalpost, the proverbial goalpost that everybody talks about. And, that's kind of what I've been doing. When I sold out my apartment buildings, I was like 99% debt free. And then I started just buying a bunch of storage and then got right back in the same position and then sold out of that. And because of the tax liabilities, I ended up buying more apartment buildings. And so my wife and I, we actually went to your mastermind. It was right at a year ago in Columbus. And you and a bunch of guys just called us out. And we've really been just nose to the grindstone, just trying to figure out organization, the whole concept of who, not how. And it's hard because, going back to my working days as a firefighter, I mean, you just get out there and you work, that's what you're expected to do. And that's what I did in real estate. I worked and worked and worked. And thank God things went really well. But, you step back and you're like, well, crap, I don't have an LLC. I don't, you're just sitting out here like a duck flying in the air with 100 hunters around you. And you're like, man, I got to really clean this up. And so that's really what we've been doing. We've bought some stuff. We bought the storage facility about a year ago, did a full rehab on it, and kind of decided that we were going to sell it. Don't know that we really want to be in storage. It's not that storage is bad, just that, you get good at one thing. But then we were talking today and we're like, I don't know. It's kind of stabilizing itself. We're ramping up really, really well. And it's like, I don't know, maybe we'll just kind of stay where we're at. So that's really what we're doing now, is just really trying to figure out. We've done, like I said, we've done well in single family rentals. We've done great in multifamily rentals. We've done really well in flipping. We've done really well in storage. Like I said, we've done some owner financing. That's been really good. So I think it's where we're at now. I'm 47, kind of looking at what really makes me tick. What do I enjoy? So that's kind of where we're at. We're, opportunistic, but, just trying to figure out kind of which direction we're going, and truly enjoying what we have built and enjoying the stabilization, because truly for 20 years, if we got something stabilized, we sold it. And then we took and rolled it into the next thing. So that's really where we're at, is just kind of starting to enjoy some of the stabilization and kind of the fruits of our labor.
For sure. So I said a lot of things in there that I want to hit on. It was interesting that, and you brought the last mastermind that we had in Dallas about a month ago, you brought your two sons to it. And we talked a lot about, trying to find your own path, figuring out what you're good at, what you want to do with your life, those type of things. And it's interesting. It came up and I wrote it down, and I think about it almost daily, is you got to try things. You got to try everything to find out what you don't like in order to find out what you do like. And it sounds like your story kind of resembles that, because you went from teacher, chiropractor, police officer, fireman. And we all have similar paths like that, right?
Right.
But so what happened in there to where you finally, obviously you became a firefighter, that stuck. Talk about that, how it stuck, and then talk about the transition in the real estate.
Well, I was doing real estate before I was even a firefighter. I bought my first house in 97. So I was in college, read Carlton Sheets course, and I was like, hey, I'm in college. I've got a couple buddies that, we need a place to live. So I got a loan. My dad actually he co-signed with me on the loan, but I borrowed from a credit card to make the down payment. And then we lived there for 3 years. So that's really how I got started. I always loved real estate, but and it's funny that you alluded to the last mastermind we were at, because one of the things that I've noticed a lot with being around a lot of people is real estate's awesome. Mm-hmm. However, to get the cash flow to live the life that you want to live is hard. Mm-hmm. And it takes time. And so for me, I loved real estate, but I would either go get a rental and I'd make a couple $100 a month. Well, you can't live on that. I have a wife. I had at the time a baby, and, you couldn't live. So I just kept on working jobs. Teacher was not bad. I'd get out at 3:30. I'd go and work on a flip house till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. Hmm. But it got old. Saturdays I worked all day. Sunday I'd crash. So I ended up leaving teaching. I chased storms doing roofing, siding, and guttering, made some good money, but once again, not consistent. So I was like, you know what? I'll do the police thing. And I just hated that. I mean, it was miserable, pepper spray, all that stuff. I'll go into a burning building all day long over getting that crap. But found firefighting. And the reason I feel like it kind of fit, first of all, I'm very hands-on. I've done a lot of work on a lot of my houses. Firefighting's kind of that same mindset. It's that blue collar, just get out there and work. But the schedule allowed for me to really ramp my actual real estate portfolio, because I was 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, and then 4 days off. And so, out of 10 days, you work 3. And even while I was at the hall, I was able to, if we weren't running calls and stuff, being able to relax, or I could take projects there like sanding and painting kitchen cabinets or whatever. So that's why firefighting worked so well. And it allowed me to be able to train some guys, get them working with me. And then that's how I was able to scale. And then, getting into multifamily and getting into storage. I love flipping. I still flip to this day, but it's very time. It just sucks your time to do it. And it's good money, but now I've got crews that I can just turn that over to. However, the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I've been doing a really heavy lift, actually out framing, doing foundation footers, and that's my story. A lot of people don't want that, and I get it, but that was how I did it. Just getting out there, finding the crappiest, nastiest house you could, and then turning it around.
Yeah. So you knew from an early start that real estate was going to be at least some type of vehicle. Did you ever plan that it would be like it would be the main source of income?
Yeah. It's funny because one of my son's friends, he's just gotten into real estate. He's been kind of riding around with me talking, and he's like, well, if real estate works. And I'm like, look, dude, I said 25 years ago, I made my mind up that I was a real estate investor. Now, was it what it was today? 25 years ago? No, but yes, I did. There was no question. I got business cards made, and I was like, I'm a real estate investor, and I was going to die getting to this point. And part of that is years ago, I would read books, and I would, buy these cassette tape courses, because there wasn't the internet, all that kind of stuff. And all these guys were making money in real estate. And I was just like, this is it. You can go to a 9-to-5 job. Even when I was teaching, I rode with a buddy of mine to save money because I was broke at the time. And he's like, yeah, you're crazy for getting into real estate. I'm like, you're crazy for staying as a teacher. I'm like, you're going to make the best you're going to make is $75,000, $80,000 a year. You're capped right here. And so, no, I always knew real estate is what I wanted to do. I never knew how long it would take. I never knew the struggle that it would be to get through, but so worth the struggle. And the thing is, and I know a lot of guys have said this, the first $1 million is very hard because you're learning, you're figuring stuff out. Everything's just new. And once you make that first $1 million, then, Ian says this a lot, it's just a cog in the wheel, or a wheel in the cog. You can plug different things in. And I think that's why I've done so well with storage and done so well with multifamily and everything else, is because it's just, you got to get the little nuances for each thing. But, since I quit the fire department, since I've been real estate full time, it's just, it's gone crazy. Yeah, some of that was, through COVID, but even now, the last year and a half, it's done really, really well. And I have a little bit different of a business model than a lot of guys. Why I feel like I can do it and it's easier is because I don't do a lot in debt. I personally either finance it myself, or I just have a couple private money lenders that I can just go to, and that's the extent of my borrowing. And so I think it allows a lot more brain space for me to not have to have, all the sophisticated ways to finance things and worry about debt market and stuff. So I can get in there and create more than, having teams. That's another thing. We don't have huge teams. I've got a few guys that work for me on the construction side, and then it's my wife and I, and we have grown our office since last year that we've been working on training and has been peeling stuff off of us. So, we just have a different business model.
Yep. Well, and you always hear there's a lot of things that I'd like to get into. I don't know if we're going to what you just talked about, but it's funny because a lot of circles that we're in and events that we go to and stuff like that, people are pounding their chest about how big their team is, the value of their portfolio, where you've taken the opposite route and in my eyes is probably more successful than those guys, where you're not, and this isn't a knock on syndication or raising money whatsoever, but if the market, gets cut in half, you're still going to have equity in your deals, right? Because you're low debt and you're going to keep running. You've got a slow team. You've got less headaches. It's simpler. So I think there's a ton of value. And you've got to figure out, anyone that's listening, like, you got to figure out what works for you, because you and I are built somewhat similar in that fact. We both have small teams. You're probably more hands-on than me, but we both have small teams, for the most part, low debt. Yours is probably a lot lower than mine, but talk a little bit more about that. And why have you been in rooms where you're like, you know what, maybe I should raise money so I can scale faster? Have you ever kind of looked at that?
So it's funny, the very first mastermind I went to, it was the first one of LFG. Dude, you talk about a messed up person. I was in storage and we were borrowing, and I was in that mindset of, man, maybe I need to scale this. I need to get more debt. This is what everybody's talking about. Nope. But leaving that, inside of me, I was just like, no, this is not what I want for myself, because I've always felt like, we know people that have $100 million under their management. And, I'm, way less than that, but I make so much more money just because I don't have 5 people on my team. I'm not paying $100,000 a person. I don't have the headache. And so for me, over the last, I think it's been 3 or 4 years since we went to that first mastermind with LFG. And this last one was almost like a sense of vindication of, what? I'm seeing guys that are quitting their jobs and they're scared because they haven't been able to get acquisitions fees from their syndications. And all I'm doing is, I'm gradually cleaning up another apartment and going from $600 a month to $1,100 a month. I'm paying cash for it as I'm doing the remodels. The stress level is so much less. And in turn, for me, I think what I've come to realize is that the whole point of what we do, and I think we forget this when we get into real estate, is we're wanting to create freedom. We're wanting to create time. We're wanting to be able to spend more time with our family. And all we're doing is, yes, we're creating this $100 million portfolio and you've got all of this equity. But the thing is, equity doesn't spend. Equity doesn't go on vacation. Equity doesn't, let you go to your daddy-daughter dance, that kind of stuff. And I guess that's really, I've been really focusing on that of where I'm at is it's okay. And a guy once said that, you run your own race. And I really had to embrace that there's nothing wrong with syndications. It's not for me. And I've come to realize I don't want partners. I don't want to have to answer to someone every day. If I make the decision, hey, I want to sell this, I want to be able to sell it. If I'm in the middle of it and I'm like, you know what, I'm not getting the price that I'm wanting, screw it. I'm just going to keep it and I'm going to enjoy the cash flow. But when you're syndicating or you've got partners, you have to answer to them. And to me, it's a lot easier. It's less, it creates less mind space when you have all that, in my opinion. And truly, this last one that we went to, I almost saw like a 180 on it, where everybody was like, oh yeah, let's go buy this. We're buying this apartment complex. We're doing this. And then it was like, okay, how do we survive? How do we get through this? People looking at businesses, for cash flow. And it's like, I've got plenty of cash flow. I live off of one set of duplexes that I've got paid off. And that's how I pay my wife and myself. We have no debt personally. So it's just banks. I could care less. I mean, I shouldn't say that. But rates, it hasn't affected me like it has other people. Yeah. I'm not worried about what's going to happen in a year or two if I've got to refinance. Because I don't have to refinance. Everything that I've got, the debt that I do have, I have with private lenders. and I have them on anywhere from 20 to 30 year terms set, and I'm cash flowing on the property. So I just don't care.
Yep. Yeah. I think you and I are on similar mental paths in that regard, to where I felt the same thing. And wasn't just our LFG event. It's been a couple other events that I've gone to where it's like, and I'm in a supposedly higher, for the most part higher quality mastermind that it's expensive, but there's supposedly high level people in there. But it's funny because they talk about a lot of it. Like a lot of the room is about EOS, integrating that system, which is basically buying your time back by hiring people. And you hit the nail on the head. Is we all, like, basically everybody gets in the real estate so that we have time freedom, and then we kind of forget that. And it's like in this mastermind, I'm not at all talking down about this mastermind, but I think a lot of people have forgotten that it's like we did real estate for a reason, and that's to have freedom. And a lot of that talk kind of, I'm just sitting there blank stare. It's like, I worked an hour today and I got a ton done and I have nothing else to do. Right. Yeah. And these guys are working, I don't know how much, but they're trying to buy their time back. So I'm glad you brought that up.
They're having to buy more real estate to hire more people for their team. And all that does is just add more and more, and I mean, you were at the mastermind, and, there was a guy that does 60 flips. I mean, I think a year, and I think it was 60 grand a month in just marketing. Yep. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, I do 10 flips a year and I make, maybe $60,000 to $100,000 per flip. And it's 5 o'clock, if I'm not there, my guys are gone. Yep. You talk about low stress. I mean, they'll be back at 8 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I'm not worried about it, but there's zero stress. I don't have to worry about, man, I got to get 50 more houses this year just to maintain. It's like, if I drop from 10 down to 5, okay, I drop down from 10 to 5, and, I'll go fix up a couple of apartments, find it. And it's funny because so many people ask me, how do you find your deals? How do you do this? And it's like, a lot of mine's through that, the net worth, you're out there talking to people know, I'm buying a house tomorrow from my son's basketball coach. I mean, my son hasn't played basketball in 4 years. But we saw each other at Walmart and, hey, you still buying houses, Dan? I'm like, yeah. So I'm buying this house, but it goes back to stress. I don't have to stress about having 30 acquisitions in the next, 6 months to be able to maintain my team. I just need a few, and my guys are good. And I make, in my opinion, I probably make just as much or more as they do on the lower side, because they've got so much. And part of it is also just the organization. I mean, you're paying an accountant, how much is slipping through the cracks? How much extra are you paying for things? And so and like I said, I'm not saying that it's wrong for people to do it that way. My wife and I have been talking about, we did a podcast before, and, just helping people. And it's like, I almost would apologize at times for the way that we are. And I just got to the point, I was just like, I'm not going to apologize anymore. If you want to go balls to the wall and be Grant Cardone, go. Yep. I'm not your guy to sit down and have a conversation with. If you want to create wealth and enjoy your life, I mean, I feel like I have a pretty good life. Yes, I'm busy, but at any point I can say, look, I'm going on vacation. I'm doing this. I don't have to be here. I have enough organization. Are we working on it to get it better? Absolutely. And I'm not as wealthy as some of these other people, but it goes back to what we talked about. I feel like I'm almost living the reality and dream that we had when we started this of, my wife and I can go grab lunch, or, my wife and my daughter's into horseback riding. We went and took off and looked at a horse the other day, and I took the whole day and went and looked at a horse. To me, that's what this is all about. It's not about, And, people even talk about generational. Well, there's things you can do to help with generational, but part of it too, and I know every kid doesn't want to follow in their parents' footsteps of doing real estate and everything else. But, part of what I've been trying to teach or talk to people about is teach your kids how to be good money managers, how to do things correctly so that when you do turn it over to them, they're not turds and they're not just blowing through the money. Set up systems, set up trusts and different things that will help kind of set parameters around it. And then if you teach your kids how to do this at an early age, then they don't have to live off of your generational wealth. They can build your generational wealth. Your wealth to create generational wealth. But my boys, you met them. They're figuring stuff out, but they're not going to need my money because they're going to think for themselves and they're going to build on what they've got. And they're going to learn from my wife and I of, look, don't go in debt for stupid stuff. You know what? You pay cash for a car. You house hack rather than going out and buying a $300,000 house. Those are things that we're teaching them that's going to build them for the future.
Yep. So how do you, we'll keep going down that path. How do you, because it's brought up a lot. How do you, because obviously we started from nothing, basically, right? Like we weren't handed a silver spoon. We weren't handed a real estate portfolio, which is part of our success, why you've gotten to where you are. How do you duplicate that or replicate that? And maybe, like you said, maybe your kids don't want to do that, but how do you make sure that they're at least smart with their money? And do you believe in giving them maybe some properties to help them off to start?
So, I'll just be upfront about it. We didn't have it a year before my son graduated. We ended up buying a triplex that was trashed. We went in and fixed it up, and I was over there working, and I'm like, how am I going to pay for my son's college? It was something that my wife and I were very adamant about doing because we ended up with a bunch of student loans. And that property, we cash flowed, I think, about almost $3,000 a month, roughly. And I was like, hey, we could take this and we could pay monthly for his college. Well, we ended up coming up with the idea of, look, we'll give you $100,000 through this one property that we've got. And so we've been able, my son's in what would have been his fourth year out of school. First year, he decided not to go to college. So he worked for me, and then he took his college money and he bought 2 little houses. And he cash flows $900 a month off of those 2. He just bought them right. We found him through a wholesaler. I helped him. I helped guide him, took him to the title company, all that kind of stuff. But he got the loan and he used his initial $25,000 for the down payment. Then he decided to go to college. So for a year and a half, we paid for him to go to college. Well, he got into college and he's like, this isn't for me. So then he quit. And I was like, man, that's an expensive thing. You could have had a couple more properties, but it is what it is. So since then, he bought another house that he's actually owner financing. So he'll be 21 in April. He's got 3 houses. One of them he's owner financing for 30 years. And he makes like $1,500 a month. Now, is that anything to write home about? No. He still has another $25,000 that he can use to buy another property. So that is how I'm helping them. And yes, you know what, John, you and I didn't have $100,000 given to me. Yep. But for me, I feel like if we can do that and give them an opportunity, I feel like I can teach them how to find a deal, teach them how to understand a mortgage calculator, how to understand interest, how to understand equity, how to understand management, how to understand. This he was a 19-year-old kid dealing with a tenant issue to someone that was 25 years older than him. It takes a lot to be able to do that. And so that is how I feel like I'm teaching my boys. And I'm going to say this too. My boys have never been lazy. So even though my wife and I help them since 14 years old, they've been cutting all of my rental properties. My son turned 16 and my youngest turned 14. We bought a lawnmower and a trailer, and they went out and cut every one of my yards in fact, my youngest is cutting right at this time this year again. This will probably be his last year, but man, it teaches them, discipline. They've got time management. They paid for all their own gas, for equipment and everything else. Yeah, they made good money, but they went out and worked. So I think that's part of it too, is there's a lot of people that they don't require their kids to do anything.
Yep.
I made my boys work. I was like, look, you're not going to just sit around the house all summer long and be lazy bums. So that's my philosophy. Don't know that it's the right one. I've talked to a lot of people, at the last one, I kind of asked questions about how to help guide your kids, because they do live in a different generation than we do, of finding who they are and figuring out. And it's amazing, since that mastermind, my son just been thinking like crazy, trying to figure stuff out. So I think a lot of it is just our interaction with our kids too, of pushing them, but also allowing them to make decisions. Cause I didn't want him to go to college. I thought it was kind of dumb. I didn't think it was, the smartest decision, but I had to let him go. I had to let him struggle through it. It cost him some money, but it also cost him some experience. So it might not be the same learning that you and I had, of us just having to grind through, but I still think that we can give them enough leash and allow them to learn on their own.
Yep. No. And I think, we're dealing with humans, right? So there's no right, there are wrong answers, but there's really no right answer on how to do it. And your story reminded me of, love him or hate him, but Donald Trump, he, I think, what did he get? $1 million loan from his dad?
I think so.
And people, break that down.
It's like, giving everything.
Yeah. Which, okay, $1 million is a lot, but that's not, look at what he's grown it to, but that's not all
that's the thing. If you look proportionately, he took $1 million to become worth $4 or $5 billion.
Billion, right?
Yeah,
so he gave him knowledge, which is the more important piece.
Correct. And he might have given him, like I did with my son, the ability to buy 2 houses. I think he bought a small apartment complex, if I remember. Yeah. But he had to learn how to do that, and then he took that and grew it and grew it and grew it. And I think that's the key to this. Is it's not giving it to them, it's giving them the knowledge and then giving them opportunity. And we didn't just, hand them $100,000. It was, okay, you want to buy this property, this is an appreciating asset. And we were able to explain all that and talk through it. And, him getting insurance and all these life skills, I don't know. I feel like it was a smart way to handle it. Like I said, I don't know that it was the right way. I know there's a lot of people that think that it's stupid, but you know what?
Those people aren't in your shoes either.
Well, and that is one thing, but then also we push our kids to go to college and spend $100,000, and most of them go in debt. Why not teach them how to do business to where they can grow? And my thing is when he went to college, I thought, okay, I don't feel like college is smart for someone that's just going for a business degree or a liberal arts degree. If you're going to be an accountant, a teacher, a doctor, sure. You know what? You have to go to school. But he is like, I'm going to go for business. And I thought, all right, you know what? Maybe he's going to develop relationships and do some things that will benefit him. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But I just don't feel like it's the best use of money. But I had to let him make that decision and let him realize, look, this isn't meant for me. He did, but it was at least a semester, man. It was a battle for him. Just realizing that was not for him, but yet not wanting to fail. So he's had to deal with a lot mentally, just getting to where he's at 3 years out of high school.
No. Yeah. Imagine if we had, and I've thought about this, our kids, my kids are a little bit younger, but imagine if we could plug them into masterminds instead of college or just school in general. And I've talked about this with other guys, like, hey, why don't we start like a kid's mastermind? It's not the easiest thing to do. I'm probably not the right person to kind of run that or form it, but imagine if, your kids had that and they got to experience the event. Well, the one has come to two of them. Imagine that experience, just being in that room. And I'm sure they're drinking from a fire hose, but if they get 2% of what was talked about in that room over 2 days, like, they're not going to learn any of that in college.
Nothing. And what's funny with that, so this is a conversation my wife and I have had a lot with. And down to the point of when they came to that mastermind, we called the school because of attendance policies and said, hey, you let kids go do college visits. My son's going into real estate. He's going to a real estate conference. I said, is there any way that they excuse 2 excused absences as a college visit? So yes, I totally agree. My youngest that went to the first mastermind with you guys, he also went to another one with me. I went to a multifamily mastermind with a couple of pretty big guys. And dude, he's hooked. Like, he loves going to these events. And like you said, if they just pick up 1 or 2 things, but I think right now, especially at their age, what they're realizing is they hear all this negative talk and, you go get a job and you do this and you do that. They go sit in a room with guys like you and me that have done that. We've had jobs, but then we've built this real estate portfolio. And man, it just makes them look at life differently, that everything's not a job. Everything's not, this is all you can make, and I'm not against jobs. If somebody loves their job and they make good money, fine. But you know what? Supplement that, because that was the whole mindset that I had as a firefighter. I had the intentions of retiring as a firefighter. Well, then I was just doing real estate. And when I hurt my back, it was like, oh my gosh, thank God I was doing real estate and I didn't have to go back with a hurt back and do that just to be able to pay the bills. And so I just feel like a lot of it is mindset. And I agree, man. I think if we can get our kids plugged in fact, something that I've been trying to push my boys to do is almost create their own mastermind and start getting around kids. And I'll throw the name Nate Barger. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's created the Burr method, the Burr website. I went to an event with for multifamily. Nate came to it and he brought I think his son was a sophomore and my son was a junior. Dude, those two hit it off. They text each other. I don't know if they've done it recently, but I was just like, that's the kind of stuff when he's got his dad talking to him, I'm talking to him. And then, you get 2 or 3 other kids that their parents are doing it. And then they can come together and just think if you and I started this when we were 18, 19, 20, where would we be at now? Yeah. And just the amount of education and the amount of, I wish I'd have realized the power of masterminds and Facebook groups before 4 or 5 years ago. I was stuck to reading books and, the old cassette tapes. And then I just got busy and that's all I did was the little bit of knowledge. There's so much knowledge out there. And so, dude, I love it. I push my kids. In fact, I think they were looking up one for Pace Morby the other day. And they're like, hey, he's going to be in Florida. I'm like, go. It's $400. Go for the day. Yep. If nothing else, you're going to get motivated and be like, look, there is so many opportunities to make money. Because, we talk about storage. We talk about single families. But, man, like Pace Morby, sub 2 and all these different things. There's thousands of ways to make money. Just go out there and learn.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, like you said, at minimum, they're going to get motivated from it, right? One way or another, whether they're like, okay, this is complete garbage, I'm going to go find something else, or they're just completely juiced up. At minimum, they're going to be motivated from it. And it's funny because this is all, I mean, we could be a dead horse and talk about this for probably 4 hours, but it's funny. Recently, I'd say the past week or so, I keep getting like Instagram reels, Facebook reels. And I do my best not to consume content on there, but I do 20 minutes a day. I try to keep it as informative as possible. But I've been getting ones that are, the more you're feeding yourself, the more positive outcomes in that field are going to come out of you. So whatever that is, if you're watching reels on how to eat healthy and how to exercise, guess what? Not just reels, but if you're consuming that stuff, reading, podcasts, whatever, guess what's going to happen? You're going to start working out more. You're going to start eating healthier. It's like that with anything. So yeah, that's all related to, being masterminds and groups and all that.
And I'll say this too, something else that I thought was pretty cool that my boys brought up is, the political environment, all the shenanigans that's going on in our world and everything else. The one thing they talk about being around me in our day to day of how like greedy people are, how judgmental, how they look at us because we've had some success. Then they go into a room that we were in a few weeks ago and they're like, man, all these guys are doing just encouraging you and just building you up. And it's like, there's so many successful people here that could just belittle you because they've had so much success, but all they're doing is just building you up. So back to the whole thing of what they learn out of it. They've seen that there are phenomenal people still out there. Cause I'm telling you, that is one of the biggest things in like high school is everything is negative and everything is belittling, trying to make themselves feel better rather than, you know what, I'm struggling with this, and being open and vulnerable like we were at the mastermind and being able to develop a relationship. I mean, I got a text from a guy that was there and he's like, hey man, I hope I wasn't too harsh. And it was like, that's the kind of people that were in this room, that they're willing to put out their knowledge and their wisdom. But my boys saw it, that they were just really caring guys that just want to see other people be successful.
Yep.
So
no, it's a great
I
point.
love it. I want to encourage them to go to anything, to just be around people that, who was I listening to? I was listening to someone the other day and they talked about, why is it all the wealthy people create charities and do stuff like that? And it's because that's who their innate person is. They are kind, giving people. But the problem is people want you to give everything you've got rather than just a percentage. But it's true. I mean, a lot of the guys that we're around are just good dudes that just want to see everybody succeed. Yes, they want to have success, but they want to pull you along with them. So I want my boys to be in rooms like that, to where, even if they only have a handful of friends, they've got really good friends that they know they can count on.
100%. Well, it's funny too. And I want to hit on this one point before we transition here, but you said how, the wealthy create charities and they're giving and all that. That's not what we're taught, right? We're taught that people with money are snobs. They're, they look down upon people, like all these negative things. And it's almost like, I put the tinfoil hat on. It's like, how much of that is government pushing that ideology, I guess? Yeah,
it goes back to school. We're taught to get a job. We're trained to work that 9 to 5. You alluded to Donald Trump. I mean, one of the most giving guys out there. I mean, you hear through his presidential candidacy, where he flew sick people across the country and did all this stuff. No, he didn't give all of his money, but he's a giving person. He just constantly finds opportunities. And that's
actually, you don't hear about it. Unfortunately, you don't hear about his giving. You hear about only the negative.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
100%.
But little bits and pieces, if you, like you said, if you try to hear stuff, I would look stuff up and it's like, you see this stuff that, well, I mean, even 9/11, that did come out, and that all happened. He went down and I think he took 200 or 300 people and paid them for 2 weeks out of his own pocket and helped do search and rescue and stuff. I mean, how many people did that? But the thing is that's the problem, is everybody is taught hold things tighter, and it's for
Yes.
me, rather than the more you give, the more that you just, I mean, if you believe in spiritual things or whatever, but I mean, it's the concept of tithing and giving and sowing and reaping and things like that. It's like the more you give, it's almost like you can't give enough because things just happen for you. And another thing is, it's not just money, but I've noticed that, real estate deals sell easier for me. I have people around me that they're like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't sell this and I can't sell that. And I'm like, I don't know. I can't help it. I mean, stuff, it sells for me. And I do feel like part of that is because of who I am and giving. And, I deal with a lot. There's a lot of people that think I'm greedy, that I'm selfish and everything else, but they don't know. They don't know. And it's, you just have to learn. I mean, what's the whole thing about bald eagles? They're leaders and they soar by themselves. Sometimes in its conversations we had of why we go to masterminds, because in our local market, we're leaders and it's lonely sometimes. But yeah, I think people in our group, I think, are very giving people, and our circles are very giving people. Because part of it, in a lot of the masterminds that we go to and the groups, it's talked about. It's not, I mean, like they're literally talking about, what are you doing for other people? How are you helping? How are you giving back? Where you go to school, it's not that at all.
Yep. That's awesome, man. That's
Sorry,
awesome.
That's my soapbox.
No, that's awesome. So I do want to hit on, before we kind of start wrapping up, I do want to hit on something that you brought up earlier. You said you're I don't want to say exact words, but you said something along the lines of, you're working on who you are. So who are you?
Whew. I said I was working.
Did you? Said something along those lines.
Yeah, I'm working. I'm not there yet. I think it comes back to what we were kind of talking about of looking back 20 years ago, what I wanted. I didn't want to work a 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 job. I'm there. I wanted to have freedom. I think I want a little bit more freedom from day to day. And I think over the next little bit, we're working more and more towards that. It's hard. My wife gave the example of, we've been doing real estate for 25 years. Ship's been going this way and we're trying to turn this ship around. That doesn't turn around, because I got really frustrated the other day. I'm like, it's been a year since we started doing stuff and we're still not there, but we're so different than we were a year ago. So I want a little bit more time freedom. I love to work. I love looking at houses. I love the deals. I love going to job sites. So I don't want to totally get away from that. I want to be a giver. I want to be able to give more money. I also want to help the next generation. And, you and I have had conversations. My wife and I started a podcast, and, we were looking at doing possibly some coaching, and we've actually kind of been reworking that. And I think we're going to be doing some more stuff, because I feel like we've got a lot of knowledge and wisdom that we can give. The struggle that I have is accepting, kind of back to what I was saying earlier, is accepting who I am. And I'm not that sexy, I've got 10 steps. Yeah. That 10 step, you're going to be a millionaire in 3 years, that so many of these guys push. Because honestly, I've been 25 years. But now if you want to learn how to create wealth and, change the trajectory of your family, I can help you with that. Yep. But I'm not going to do it for you. So I think I've gotten comfortable in my own skin of who I am within my real estate investing. I think I want more time, and I want to give back to the next generation. And that's probably the biggest work in progress right now, of what avenue can I use that won't bog me down and won't frustrate me, but yet I can give that message and that information to other people.
Yep. That's awesome, man. I love it. So we'll transition here, start to wrap up. Just have a couple questions, kind of typical podcast questions. What are you better at than everyone else?
I don't know that I'm better at anything. I think I don't give up. I am very, very, very persistent. It goes back to the quote that I said about the kid that I've been talking to is when I make my mind up, it might take me 20 years to get there, but it's just that ability to never give up, know what I want, and I just do it.
It's a common quality of people that I interview on here, which is why one of the reasons why I do this, because I like to see what other successful people are doing and learn from them. And it's like, that is probably the number one common trait. And it's funny. I heard this quote, I want to say, which is funny. Matt Rife, he's a comedian. He's actually from Ohio. Someone told him, you don't ever fail. You just quit.
That's right.
And I was like, I've been thinking about that for like the last 2 weeks. I'm like, that is so true. Like, you don't really fail, or no, you don't really fail until you quit.
Correct.
Which is so true, right?
Yeah. Because we're going to fail. We fail at stuff every day. Yep. It's just a matter of, you know what? That sucked. That wasn't a good situation. That wasn't a good decision. But, you know, that old saying, you fail forward. You just continually, you fail, but you learn from it and you build. But you've got to get in your mind that you're just not going to quit. You're not going to stop till you reach that goal. But that's one of the biggest problems is we get that mindset. But once we get to have success, we've got to learn how to enjoy the success that we've had. Yep. And I think that's the big thing that I've been talking about is just, I've hit success. I've hit a certain level of achievement. Now I've got to dial it back and really, truly figure out who I am and what I really want. So,
yep, that's awesome. Normally I ask what's next for you, but you kind of just explained all of it. So you already answered my question.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the coaching would probably be our next thing. We're actually working on it and just kind of building off of it. So,
well, in the transition, if people have questions, want to reach out to you, obviously you're giving, you do want to do some type of coaching. Where can people find you?
happyhometennessee.com.
Awesome. So happyhometennessee.com. That's easy to remember.
Yeah.
This is awesome, man. This is probably one of my favorite. I've probably said that before, but this is one of my favorite shows. We dove really deep into some stuff and didn't just talk real estate investing, which was awesome. So appreciate you coming on. Appreciate your friendship, man.
Dude,
and
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, man.
And you know, you've been a big part of it. I know you kind of hang out in the back and don't let people see you much, but you know, you really have. You've been a good friend, and you've pushed me and made me a better person. So I do appreciate our friendship.
I appreciate that, man. You've done the same to me and more. So appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for following, subscribing, and listening to this episode of the Do More podcast hosted by John Farling. To learn more or ask questions, go to l4investing.com.